Thank you for being here. Please take a seat. I'm Ruben Clark with Rev Local and this year's board chair of the Licking County Chamber of Commerce. It is my sincere honor to welcome you to the 67th Annual Groundhog Breakfast. For those of you tweeting this morning, please use the hashtag on the screen, LCGH2023, to brag to your followers that you're up before the sun and to provide feedback to the Chamber about this morning's event. We have several elected officials in attendance today. If you could please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Now I'm pleased to be joined very soon by Melissa Anderson, who will perform the national anthem following presentation of the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand and honor our country as the Veterans Alliance presents the colors. Now, if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I believe at this time, you guys can present all the colors. And also we have a singer today as well for our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Good job. Wow. Thank you to Melissa Anderson for that wonderful rendition. Please, let's give her another round of applause. Fantastic. Now it is also my honor to introduce Dave Mason from the pastoral care team at Licking Memorial Hospital for this morning's invocation.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for another day of life and for the opportunity to gather as a community. We thank you for this meal and for the hands that have prepared it. I thank you for all the business leaders in this room, for the services they offer, for the jobs they provide, for the community support they give. Please guide their steps and grant them success as they seek to be a blessing to others. We ask your blessing on this time together. May you be honored in all we do. In his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Dave, for your thoughtful words. You may all take a seat. All of our chamber events are team efforts. That's especially true for the Groundhog Breakfast, which, as you can see, with an audience this size and agenda, has a lot of moving parts. So I'd like to take a minute to recognize the people who make this event happen. First, the catering team from Licking Memorial Hospital for the wonderful breakfast, as well as getting up even earlier than most of us in order to prepare the meal. The delicious hot coffee provided by Jeff Groh and his team with Coffee Shack Roasters and Cafe, and iced coffee drinks courtesy of Matesic Distributing. The stage, tables, and chairs delivered and set up by Universal Events. Rob Montagnes, Veronica Patton, Tom Argyle, and the Licking Memorial Health Systems team for coordinating this morning's keynote speaker arrangements. Audio-visual connection for lighting up the stage and delivering all of our production needs. The team at Cherry Valley Hotel for the use of this wonderful event center. And of course, we can't say thank you enough to our sponsor, Licking Memorial Health Systems, celebrating their 125th anniversary. Isn't that fantastic? Congratulations on 125 years. We look forward to hearing more from you in a moment. Now, I have the privilege of working with a dedicated group of businessmen and women who generously share their time, talent, and expertise to lead our organization. I would like to recognize the Chamber Board of Directors this morning. I ask my fellow board members to stand when I call your name and remain standing if you would, and please hold your applause until the end. Dr. John Berry, past chairman with Central Ohio Technical College. Brad Feitner, chair-elect with Auto Insurance. Jason Hall, treasurer with TrueCore Federal Credit Union. Trey Brooks with the Boeing Company. Seth Ellington with Affordable Portables and Papa Booze. Joan Franks with Matesic Distributing. Joe Gebhardt with Hess Commercial Real Estate. Tina Grove with Hendrickson Auxiliary Axle Systems. Tabby Hahn with Edward Jones. Todd Londot with Monte Christopher. Chuck Moore with the Food Pantry Network of Licking County. Danny Nichols with First Federal Savings. Jennifer Roberts with the Newark Campus Development Fund, Thomas J. Evans Foundation, and Gilbert Reese Family Foundation. And finally, Jeff Wilson with Park National Bank. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for your leadership. Let's give them another round of applause for all their hard work and dedication to our community and Licking County. And finally, we would not be able to make this event happen without the contributions and expertise of a group of creative and committed individuals that we call the Groundhog Committee. Very creative, I know. With a new location, this group actually has a reserved table instead of usually where they're at, sitting at the bleachers on the side. So committee members, please stand as I call your name. Spencer Barker, with Cutland Commercial Investment Group and Newark City Councilman. Mike Birkmeyer with Madison Collins Stevens Agency. Tom Cummiskey with Park National Bank. Judge Tom Marcelain with Licking County Common Pleas Court. Brittany Misner with Monte Christopher. Heather Powell with the Edwards Group at Morgan Stanley. Ryan West with First Federal Savings and chamber team members Jennifer McDonald and Amelia Hitchens. Thanks for everything you all do to coordinate this great event. Let's give them a round of applause. Licking Memorial Health Systems is this year's sponsor of the Groundhog Breakfast, and as mentioned, 2023 is a milestone for the hospital, celebrating 125 years of healthcare service in Licking County. It is my privilege to congratulate you on this milestone and introduce their president and CEO, Rob Montagnes.
Other duties as assigned. I didn't know they had this in mind.
So 10 years later, the Groundhog family has continued to grow like Licking Memorial Health System. And we're going to spend a few minutes watching how they've grown over the last 10 years and how we've grown over the last 10 years. Really? After 17 years, I'm still performing other duties as assigned. Well, good morning. I'm Rob Montagnes, also known as Scrubs, as you saw in the video, which I have played a few times. I'm the CEO of Licking Memorial Health Systems, and we are very pleased to be our lead sponsor here today, 125 years of celebration. And I think you've seen in the last 10 years since our last sponsorship, whether it's community involvement, technology adoption, service delivery, clinical programs, we've been very busy. And that doesn't even include the 1 year with COVID, as you saw in the slides. To give you a little history and background, 1898 is when the hospital was first started by a group of women over on North 3rd Street. It moved to Buena Vista and Everett Avenue in 1914, and then eventually, 1966, over on our main campus at Main Street. We have three large entities: the hospital, of course, the health professionals is over 100 physician multi-specialty medical group, and of course the Licking Memorial Health Foundation. In the last 20 years, we've added so many things. Once again, you just saw many of those, whether it's the multiple urgent cares throughout the community, new locations like Tamarack, 1717 West Main, physician offices really throughout the entire county, and the number of other things we've been celebrating is tremendous. When you think about some of the clinical technologies in the radiology area, the laboratory area, the testing that we're able to do so quickly. One of the slides showed troponin, which is a way we're able to assess heart attacks in generally 2 hours or less, much less than the old 6, 8, 9 hours with multiple lab tests. And we were one of the first in the country to do that. It really speaks to our employees, and it speaks to their willingness to continue to push the envelope to protect and to keep safe all of us, friends, neighbors, and that's one thing I think that working in a community hospital is so rewarding. All of you, all of our friends and family is who we're here to take care of each and every day. One of the things you saw in the video at the end, and it certainly doesn't rank as highly in terms of importance as the heart care, the urology care that we've been able to bring to the community, the advanced cardiology care, infectious disease, rheumatology. But you did see at the end there our new cafe. And I think it's become sort of a tradition here to give a small gift or token of appreciation for allowing us to be a sponsor or any sponsor. So you do have at your place a gift card to come and enjoy our cafe. For those of you not familiar, when people in our community say hospital food, they're not saying it with a derogatory tone. It's actually, I think, well received by most of our community. And you did see in that video our new cafe with a lot of different offerings. So whether you come for breakfast and want a made-to-order omelet, you come for lunch or dinner with a made-to-order pasta or one of our specialty dishes from our rotating modular station, we would be happy to have all of you in as our guests now that we have opened back up and have you for a meal of some kind. And I think you will find that very enjoyable. In closing, I just want to thank the community for their continued support. Certainly, we have a gem, and it's not, I feel somewhat self-serving saying that, but if I were not here, I certainly could tell you that an independent community hospital that continues to monitor, collaborate, and serve the needs of its local community is becoming rarer, and it certainly wouldn't exist without the support that we continue to get from our community. It also wouldn't exist without the tremendous employees that we have. Is that light flashing? Does that mean I'm getting to the end of my talk, or is that... So far, the technology has not matched our health system. So in any case, clearly the employees that we have and our medical staff, our board of directors, all the other supporting organizations really allow us to be successful. So once again, thanks to all of you. I want to thank the Chamber and Jennifer for allowing us to be a sponsor again. And we'll have an enjoyable rest of the breakfast, and I'll be back up here shortly to introduce our speaker, who is going to be tremendous. So once again, thank you all for having us, and enjoy the rest of your breakfast.
Make her up. Thank you, Rob, and your entire team at Licking Memorial Health Systems for all you do for the residents and our community, and for your remarks. We truly appreciate you sponsoring today's event. Now, like the groundhog, it is time for a little forecasting, our economic forecast, that is. We got great feedback about the way we did this format last year, so this year we're going to do it again with us live on stage, giving you the answers to the questions that you want to know. So please, if I can invite up those that are helping with today's forecast. All righty. Today I'm joined by Brandon Hess, Sarah Wallace, and Rick Platt. Thank you for joining me today, gentlemen and ladies. Or lady, I should say.
Thank you.
So just so you know, we've collected thousands and thousands of questions from everybody around the county, put them all together, ran them through an algorithm, and out came a few questions that I'm going to be asking you today. So, you guys ready for this?
Let's do it.
All righty. Brandon, let's start with you. So it's no secret that the real estate business is in a bit of a flux right now. What about the commercial real estate business? And tell us how rates may affect your business and how it has been this year.
You know, things in 2022, we had an incredible year. Our sales were double that of 2021. So things are really, really good. Right now in 2023, we definitely don't see things slowing down. What's happening, obviously, in our county is very exciting, I think, for everybody here, and especially being in the commercial real estate business. But, you know, rates, it's tricky. I think right now there's still a lot of cash flowing out there, especially, you know, in our sector. So it hasn't really affected commercial real estate as far as buyers coming in. I think it's more affected the folks that are truly looking for investment real estate, making sure that they can continue to get that return, and it continues to be a good place to put your money. You know, speaking from the heart, I think real estate's always a great place. I think for the long term, you will be successful, and I think there's going to continue to be opportunities here in Licking County as well. So rates haven't affected us too bad. Hopefully it doesn't affect the residential market too bad, and very bullish on this year. So.
All right, thank you. So there's been a great deal of focus for some time now on workforce availability and development. As an owner of two different businesses, Shia Hess Commercial Real Estate and Mattingly Family Companies, how do you address recruitment, retention, and training of employees? And what's your experience with the local and regional talent pool?
You know, it's only going to be tougher as more businesses come into our market. Competition continues to rise. So you just have to do to me, it's the simple things. You know, we try to treat all of our employees like family. Make sure when you see them, you greet them with a smile. You tell them good job. And, you know, you just continue to show up for them. And I think from a retention standpoint, that works for both Mattingly and Shia Hess. And, you know, I was raised in a family business, and family was always the number one priority. So we've just continued to grow like that, treating our family, or treating our employees like family, and it's worked. So retention has not been difficult for us. You know, we continue at Mattingly to try to do some different things that are special for our employees. You know, we bring in a massage therapist, which is kind of unusual when our folks work in a cold warehouse. So you bring in somebody that during their lunchtime, we'll give them a massage, and we offer that. We pay for half of that, the employee pays for the other half. And then we try to do special lunches, bring in good food for them, actually sit down with them and have conversations with them, and that's worked really well. We also have truck drivers. You know, years ago we used to try to hire 20 at a time. Now you're lucky to find one. So that continues to be very, very difficult. And I think that's going to be a challenge not only for our community, but for our country going forward. You know, it's a very difficult job when you put somebody over the road and traveling and they're not home seeing their families. So that one continues to be a challenge, but overall we've been very, very blessed and very lucky.
Sounds fantastic. I may need one of those massages when we're done here. So, Sarah, I'd like to jump over to you. You've been the driver behind the Framework Planning Initiative. Can you give us a 3-minute synopsis around where that stands as of today?
Yes, absolutely. Happy to do that. Framework, as many of you are probably aware, is a collaborative public-private partnership with county government and 7 townships, 4 cities, and 3 villages. So it's a multi-jurisdictional effort. And what we will be doing with Framework is actually knitting together the plans that are already in place within our jurisdictions, within Licking County, and also a lot of the plans that are in process right now to really have a foundational plan that can help inform the decisions that our jurisdictions will be making going forward. And that will be very, very helpful as we have fast growth in western Licking County. The work is done in 3 phases. The first phase was last summer and last fall, which was the foundational work of a lot of data gathering and also public input gathering, because that is absolutely critical, because all of us as citizens of Licking County really have the best finger on the pulse of how we want Licking County to be going forward. So the public input that we gathered through the fall is being used to form the 14 principles that will sit at the foundation of the framework document and the framework project, which will then, in the 3rd phase, will actually provide a playbook and an overall plan that will be able to inform the public.
Excellent, thank you. Looking forward a decade from now, what is your prediction for the landscape of Licking County? And what would be the ideal changes we'd see, and what do you think are the biggest obstacles and advantages to get to that ideal model?
That's a big topic, but my hope for Licking County is that we can move forward in a really collaborative way, because that's how we are going to have absolutely the best results when it comes to really shaping our future. This is not a time when we can sit back and just let things happen. We need to plan and really be collaborative so that we can speak with a louder voice when it comes to funding and the infrastructure, transportation, and those sorts of things, so that we can speak with a much louder voice if it is collaborative. I think the advantages that we have within our community going forward, I think framework will be very, very helpful. We have tremendous higher education institutions within Licking County already that have been here for a long time. We have a wonderful workforce with a great work ethic. And I think we have very strong political, business, nonprofit leadership within Licking County, which every county in Ohio cannot say that, I don't think. I think the biggest obstacle, and I think it's one that we can overcome if we hang together as a community, is in funding for the many projects that will be required for us to be able to really shape our communities. We have wonderful communities, and they're unique. Each one of them are unique. So we have to work together, and I think that's where we're able to do that.
Great, thank you. Rick, let's jump over to you. You've been involved in economic development in the area for many years. So what makes Licking County an attractive location for industrial development?
Sure, that list is long, Ruben. I guess I focus a lot of time on the manufacturing sector, and so I think there's 2 things that stand out. I mean, one is when the rest of the country thought manufacturing was dying, I think we were going to sell insurance to India or something, that Licking County doubled down, and we remained bullish on manufacturing. So in central Licking County, we have 5 industrial parks. That takes a lot of investment in infrastructure and land taking risks, and we've been doing that for decades, and we continue to see progress. I mean, in the Port Authority campus in Heath, we've had 12 spec buildings built in 12 years, and they're targeting small companies. Ohio Manufacturers Association said that 62% of manufacturers in Ohio have 20 or less employees. So it's not just the big ones that grab the headlines, it's the small companies too that are the spine of our overall body of manufacturing in Licking County. So that's historical. The other part is that unique STEM skills, or what we call them now, but it was Licking County was STEM before STEM was STEM. We have this unique ability that isn't very common. Stereotypically, if you want engineering talent, you've got to go to a big city. If you want that technician level talent, you've got to go out further into the farm country, as they say. We've defied that stereotype for 70 years in Licking County with Owens Corning, with what was the Newark Air Force Base, now anchored by Boeing. That we can attract engineering and technician talent both. and have those unique capabilities here to be able to provide the world with goods and services that we can all be proud of.
Yeah, it's great to hear that we can have such a thing here in Licking County. So the businesses and manufacturers in the Port Authority, which you oversee, are very diverse. Can you talk a little bit about their overall health and specifically how supply chain and economic climate may be affecting those businesses?
Sure. Let me focus on the positive side of that. It is diverse. I mean, we've got guidance system for missiles and baby formula. We've got plant-based seafood, who knew that was a thing, and protein bars. It runs the gamut in terms of the kind of manufacturers that are located on our campus in Heath, and it spreads in the entire central Licking County corridor, with polycarbonate and linear motion equipment. That diversity is another strength of our county. But I think that's also why, again, to focus on the upbeat side, certainly the supply chains were and continue to be an issue. I mean, who knew it would be hard to get fasteners for putting on a flat roof? We have a hard time just finding electrical switchgear and equipment to be able to finish electrical projects we started. But we've also had, I mentioned the baby formula. Nature's One was part of doubling up their production in order to serve who knew there'd be a crisis, which we still have in this country with a supply of baby formula. Let me show you the picture of my granddaughter that was born in November. I care about baby formula. And we need to make sure that we are continually part of that supply chain. So, it's hard to work this far into it. I haven't mentioned Intel yet, but I think we can all be proud that we're going to be, in the future, not too far off, we're going to be part of supplying our nation with something that is critical for our national security long term, and that's having semiconductors made here.
Fantastic, thank you. I, as a recent grandfather myself, echo some of those sentiments. So let's turn back to you for a moment. What's your outlook for 2023, not just for Hess Real Estate, but for Licking County as a whole?
Look at the facts, I think. Rick just mentioned the Intel word, the recent announcement of Amazon purchasing more acreage. You got the Amgen plant being built. In Heath, you got the Bear plant being built. Downtown Newark, you have the arcade being renovated. All these signals are, to me, showing you things are not going away. And this is a long-term play. This is a play that is very, very good, in my opinion, for Licking County and us as a community. And, I just say it's going to be Licking County good.
All right, we'll take it. Sarah, with your extensive experience in banking and economic development, tell us your forecast for business and industry in 2023 and beyond.
I had a few thoughts about this. I think we're likely to see a few speed bumps in 2023. I think there's no doubt about that. But we have low unemployment. Our unemployment rate was only 2.7% in the fourth quarter of 22, while the state of Ohio was at 4.1 or 2. We are in a growing area, which is always very helpful. And I think our economy seems quite resilient nationally and as well as locally. And I think we are making good progress relative to the fight with inflation. So I think that is critically important. I do think that Jay Powell with the Fed is making good decisions. I think it's important that we tame this inflation quickly and immediately, because we saw what happened in the the last half of the 1970s, and when Paul Volcker came in, and we had a great deal of pain during the first half of the 1980s, and I'm hopeful that this will not last a long time like that. I think the fact that Jay Powell believes in the playbook of Paul Volcker will serve us well going forward. I also wanted to make a comment about interest rates, because those of you who are maybe about 45 years of age or younger have not lived in an economy in the United States where interest rates have been any higher than 1 and 2 and 3%. And that's been true since 2008. If you go back and look 200 years back in terms of levels of interest rates, that's the lowest interest rate time we've ever had in this country since about 1800. So it's something that we kind of got used to, but I think going forward, I think we need to embrace this. We need to understand the importance of why interest rates need to go up a little bit in order to tame inflation and learn from the lessons that we will all learn in running our businesses throughout this different time. Because you do, from my experience, you do learn a lot in different times when you have different economic conditions that you need to manage through. So I think we will learn a lot in the coming years, but I think we will be in pretty good shape.
Sounds good. Rick, tell us your forecast for business and economic development this year and maybe even out 10 years.
Sure. Sarah's right on. It's hard to ignore the national news and the fear of a slowdown that's happening. I think the question is, can Licking County, more of Licking County's companies, kind of defy that national trend? I know at a recent Manufacturers Council meeting in the chamber, there were 10 manufacturers in the room, and I heard the growing trend was that we're at full strength in terms of workforce. There's a double edge to that. That means that some are starting to feel a slowdown. But that means also there are companies still looking to hire. So if that slowdown means they're not able to retain their workforce, hopefully that slack in Licking County is picked up by the fact that we have a diverse economy that, some companies may be hurting, we have to recognize that, but then there are others that are going to hopefully pick up that slack. And I think and it bodes to now, but also in that 10-year part of your question, Ruben, is, that manufacturing thing, I'll keep going back to it. There's a reshoring of manufacturing trend. It didn't really catch our attention until the COVID hit, but it was happening before that, China's population is actually declining now, not just working age, but declining. So our competitor for GDP, our competitor for capital investment across the globe is not going to be able to be the exporter that they used to be. So we can pick up that slack as a country, and we're doing that in Ohio, and I think Licking County is a microcosm of it. We got Bear Paint going to open in 2023, making latex paint to serve the nation. We're seeing semiconductors coming. We're seeing pharmaceutical vials at Amgen. So, I think Licking County in the next 10 years is going to be that continued microcosm of a reshoring of manufacturing. And I think it's time for Ohio to get used to growth again.
Awesome. That's excellent news. Thank you all for your forecasts. Sounds like there's strength in Licking County, and that's great news. So thanks again to Brandon, Sarah, and Rick. Round of applause for them, please. I believe somebody's coming up to join me here briefly. You have something to share? All righty. Wow, this groundhog must really like Taylor Swift. I'm not sure I could move like that in that kind of an outfit, so thank you. But let's move on. I'd like to invite Chamber President Jennifer McDonald at this time to give an update on all the activities that your Licking County Chamber of Commerce has been doing. Jennifer.
Hi. How's everybody doing? So my kids have told me that I'm in the dark a lot, and so today I think, well, no, the lights are back on. Just had a little mini outage, you know, nothing to worry about. So it's so good to see everybody. I haven't seen dance moves like that since Ryan West was our chairman, right? If you follow him or are friends with him on Facebook, every year he shows how he did his dance in, 2018? It's phenomenal. I remember texting him the next day and I said, on YouTube it has 1,700 views, and he said, 1,659 are me. So I thought that was a lot of fun. But anyway, I want to thank everyone who had something to do with planning today. It's a lot of moving parts, and sometimes it works really well, and sometimes we have lights that go out. But you know what? We move on, because that's what we do. I want to congratulate again Licking Memorial Health Systems for 125 years. How phenomenal is that? You know, when I was preparing what I wanted to say today, I kind of looked back on the 6 years prior that I get up and say something. And I know you're not here to hear me, but I always try to think of something that would be motivational or a little bit about what the Chamber's doing. And each year it has a similar theme: change. Change that added benefits for local businesses and organizations, our members. We feature programming to culture and develop young professionals, information and education for seasoned professionals, that's what I like to call myself, as well as industry and occupation-focused programming through our HR, manufacturers, small business, and Women's Leadership Network, and dozens of other programs really centered around economic and workforce development. We joined forces with other organizations like the Port Authority, Grow Licking County, Newark Development Partners, CTEC, COTC, Explore Licking County. You get the gist. The list goes on. While this year is really no different, we are constantly reviewing our programs and fine-tuning them to fit the needs of our members. The one constant I came back to time and time again is change. And the motto, embrace change, is one of the Chamber's values. It's really in our DNA. But I don't really like the negative connotation that the word change has. So for the rest of my remarks, I'm going to refer as change as transformation. Sounds much better, doesn't it? So in speaking of transformation, I'm incredibly blessed, if you four would come up and join me on stage, to work with 4 women who are adept at transformation. I cannot express enough how fortunate I am. Actually, how fortunate our members are to have this talented team, fondly referred to as #TeamChamber. Since a few of the faces might be new, I would like to introduce them to you. Our newest team member is Carrie Lonzo. Carrie, if you want to step forward.
Step forward.
Yeah, I'd like you to step forward. So Carrie spearheads our affiliate and workforce programs, which is our HRMA, our Human Resource Management Association, Manufacturers Council, our Women's Leadership Network, and Small Business Council. She brings with her a wealth of knowledge and incredible ideas. She's brought such creative ideas and speakers for our Small Business Thrive event, which will be now a full-day seminar on July 16th. So if you want to mark your calendar for that. I'm sorry, it's June 16th, sorry. And the Women's Leadership Conference to be held on March 3rd. And there's only a few, and I mean a few, seats available for that. The theme this year for our Women's Leadership Conference is purpose, passion, and perseverance. And actually, that describes Carrie to a T. I encourage you to get to know her. Another new face, and almost as new to our team, is our membership director, Jamie Kiesel. She's welcomed 70 new members since she started in July. She has no idea, right? She coordinates our ribbon cuttings, our groundbreakings, our Chamber 101, and our ambassador program. She's fun, extremely organized, extremely. Both of these two make their bed every single day. Who does that? Today. Oh, but not today, sorry. Jamie's fun and just really polite as they come, so introduce yourself to her if you haven't already. Next, our marketing director, Amelia Hitchens, celebrated 1 year at the Chamber this past fall, so she's a veteran, right? She oversees many of our events and programming, including all of the Young Leaders program. She does all of our social media, our email marketing, so you probably get a lot of emails from Amelia Hitchens. She brings insight into new trends and promotion, and a great person to chat with about ways to promote your business. She hangs with the best of them, almost 9 months pregnant, and still eager to help and plan for the rest of 2023 with excitement. Make it one more day. And finally, our office manager, Atrina Good, who is heading toward her 5th year at the Chamber. Atrina facilitates our Safety Council program, and she does all of our financials and keeps our office running smoothly. We call her the glue that holds everybody together. She could possibly be the most compassionate person I've ever met. I texted this morning and I said, does anybody have a home printer that they could print off the economic forecast questions? She's like, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. So this is amazing. She does such good work. And if you don't already know her, please, again, introduce yourself to her. You see, ladies, it's really important for me to thank you publicly. A lot of times I get to stand up here and say all the good things we're doing, but it's a team effort, and I appreciate you all so very much. Thank you. So again, I go back. There's been a lot of changes this year, and I'm not allowed to say change anymore, so transformations, both in the community and with our team. Ladies, thank you for embracing change and helping us transform all of our programming. So looking ahead at transformations at the Chamber in 2023, I mentioned a few: the Women's Leadership Conference, our Small Business Seminar, a few other highlights. We're moving our Rockin' the Rooftop event to the Canal Market. I never knew how nerve-wracking watching the radar could be when you have 1,000 people gonna join you on top of a parking garage. And there's rain coming. So we're moving it to the Saturday, July 15th, and it'll be at the Canal Market. We got you covered. Got it? Our annual gala and awards ceremony is moving to the Reese Center on a Thursday so we can accommodate more people and it'll be closer to the weekend. We'll have all of your favorite programs back, your bi-monthly local leaders, events featuring state officials, roundtable discussions, and programs addressing workforce recruitment and retention. You can read all about our efforts in business in Licking County in this year's edition of our Proud magazine. Oh, I don't like to look at myself. There should be a screen up here of the Proud magazine. There we go. Thank you to our friends from the Newark Advocate. You can pick up your copy or a bundle as you exit. And as you can see, we featured the largest development, trying to find the table of Intel here, to come to Licking County in Ohio, Intel's groundbreaking on the cover. With that development, growth, planning, and transformation in mind, the Chamber stands ready to assist. As Sarah discussed in the forecast, it's important for everyone to come together to determine our framework, our transformation to come. It's coming. Heck, it's been coming for the past decade, hasn't it? We've seen so much growth in every city and area, especially in Western Licking County. But I think with Intel and other developments and expansions, we all have a heightened awareness of transformation on the horizon. I can tell you that our board of directors is ready and able to support all of our businesses now and in the future. Our partnerships with community improvement corporations, Newark Development Partners, and Grow Licking County, with Newark Development Partners in the downtown and arcade redevelopment, and with Grow Licking County facilitating industrial expansions and growth, are more important now than ever. If you haven't ever felt invited or involved, I'm inviting you right now. 600 people, you are invited. Reach out to me, reach out to Alexis Fitzsimmons, Fred Ernest, your mayors, commissioners, elected officials. The list goes on. The future is ours to define, and I look forward to working alongside all of you as we transform Licking County into the best place to work, live, and play. Thank you for your attention this morning, and thank you for your continued investment in the Licking County Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, and the entire staff team at the Chamber. You guys are fantastic. So another round of applause for them, please. At this time, I would like to invite Rob Montagnes back up to introduce today's keynote speaker.
Thank you, Ruben. And before I introduce today's speaker, who, if you read the bio, distinguished, impressive military career, highly decorated and inspirational, I thought it appropriate to ask anyone in the audience who is a veteran to stand so we can recognize your contributions and your service to our country and our community. So would all of our veterans please stand, and can we give them a round of applause? Thank you, and certainly thank you for your service. We're going to have an opportunity, I think, to hear from one of the more outstanding speakers that you will hear, and someone who is renowned throughout the country. And I think his career and his history is really almost unprecedented. He is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, a former jet fighter pilot, a combat veteran with 74 successful missions over Vietnam. In addition, he helped start the Top Gun School in Miramar, California. On his 75th mission, just 5 days before he was scheduled to return home, Captain Plum was shot down over enemy territory. He ejected from his F-4 Phantom jet, parachuted into enemy hands, was taken prisoner, tortured, and survived nearly 6 years in communist prison camps. He has returned here today to share his story of winning through adversity to more than 5,000 audiences, and today to an audience of 600, not only throughout our country, but around the world. But to get a better feel for Captain Plum and for how it all began, let's watch this video.
Tower, X-ray, flight at 3, we're 15 to the northeast for landing. Now, 1 Charlie, 7 November, go. Roger, auto, point on forward. Rifle, maximum in the mark, elevation 30. 7 November, golf, roger, check your front left side, I'll check my tank side, 7 November, golf out. Stay coming that away if you can. Climb up into the south.
first prison cell I was in Vietnam was 8 feet long, 8 feet wide, exactly the size of this light. I remember distinctly the dimensions of that little cell. I could pace 3 steps in one direction before I ran into a wall. Then I had the opportunity of turning around and pacing steps the other way. Inside my new little home, I had nothing to do. I had no books to read, no window to look out, no TV, telephone, didn't have a pencil or a piece of paper. For 2,103 days. That age to age 24 to age 30 in my life. Turn your calendar ahead to the year 2029. Consider between today and 2029, the books you'll read, TV you'll watch, business you'll do, pretty good chunk out of a guy's life. Now, I'd have been a very active guy, like each of you. Midwest farm kid, on the go all the time, searching for an extra 15 minutes a week to call my mom. And suddenly I had 24 hours a day for the next nearly 6 years. I'm describing this scenario to you somewhat semi-dramatically because I think the most value I can be to each of you, whether you're a president or a bookkeeper, whether you're an entrepreneur or a mother, whether your goal in life is to change the world or to change a diaper. The most value I can be in the few minutes we're together is to invite you into my little prison cell. You see, there's a great deal to be learned in this little 8-foot by 8-foot box. So for the next few moments, I'd like for you to try your best to smell the stench of the 2-gallon bucket in the corner I call my toilet. I'd like you to try to feel the baking heat of a tropical summer in a tin-roof prison cell 10,000 miles away from the good life. I'd like you to try to taste the salt, the annoying taste of salt in the corners of your mouth from the sweat and the tears and the blood. Not that you'll ever be prisoners of war, God forbid. But if I do my job this morning, you'll see where the same kinds of challenges you and I face daily, at the office, at home, on the road, with the kids. Same challenges we face on a daily basis are the very same challenges I faced in that prison cell. And more importantly, your response to your challenge, if you're going to succeed in this business and in life, has to be the same recipe of responses I used over there just to survive. And one more thing. If this is already too great a stretch, if you're already having trouble bridging this gap between my life story and yours, the best I can offer you is an interesting war story. But here's the connect. Here's the touch point. Here perhaps is a reason that your life and mine intersected on the 3rd of February, 2023. There's not a person in this room who has not, in the last couple of years, felt overwhelmed and underappreciated. Not a person here who hasn't had trouble communicating, even with those you love the most, as I did. Not a person here who hasn't had your very baseline value system challenged. So, once you get the hang of this, once you can put aside your comfort zone just for a little bit, step into a dingy little prison cell, 8 by 8, a long way from home. When you have that feel, have a couple of questions. Here's the first one. How do you survive this? What kind of stuff do you have in your gut? What did you bring to breakfast this morning? What kind of tools do you have in your psychological toolbox you'll pull out and apply to the problems of your life? Question number 2, leaders, Licking County leaders. What about the guys next door? What about those prisoners of war in that cell next to yours? Guys that are clinging to life by their fingernails are in a world of hurt. They need your help, but they don't trust you. They think you have some kind of hidden agenda. How do you get through to them? Well, the first thing you learn in a prison cell is pain. This hurts. You probably figured that out. Second thing, you might not suspect this. The second thing you learn in a prison cell is, well, The minutes eventually wear into hours, and the hours eventually wear into days, days into weeks, weeks into months, and you acclimate. You get used to this. You really do. In fact, you get so comfortable in your little 8-foot by 8-foot cell that the last place you want to go is outside the cell because it's dark and lonely out here. At least you know the devil in the light. Here's what happens. You get this restriction built up. And it's not the 8 feet between the walls. It's 8 inches between your ears. You're in a mental box. Ever get in one of those mental boxes? Been pretty easy to do during COVID in the last couple of years. Your people get in mental boxes. Can't see the forest for the tree. We all get there. I'm convinced the mental boxes of our lives can be more restrictive than those walls of stone and steel that I was behind. But I don't mind telling you this. It didn't take me very many miles on that floor. I was going nuts, right on the edge. I'm thinking to myself, Charlie, if you're going to survive this, you're going to have to come up with something to do. Keep your mind and body active. I thought, that's what I'll do. I'll make a little deck of cards. And I did. I constructed a little deck of playing cards about the size of postage stamps. I tore these cards from 52 little strips of toilet paper. And I learned this in that prison camp. Toilet paper is tough to shuffle. You don't lick your fingers very much. Okay, before we get back into the prison scene and the connection between my life story and yours, let me tell you what pride I have in being in Licking County and being with a group like this, the leaders. And it may be the pinnacle of my career. As Rob told you, I've spoken over 5,000 times all over the world. I've been on the stage with presidents and ambassadors. I've been on the stage with Mickey Mouse and the Aflac Duck. First time I've ever been on stage with a groundhog. But what a community. Wow. Great to be back in the Midwest where I grew up, where you say the Pledge of Allegiance and you say a prayer before these meetings. It's so good. You know, they don't do that on the coast very much. So good to be home. But what does it take? What does it take to serve in your community, on this chamber, in business? Well, I think I have to call all of you parachute packers. Let me explain that. I sat down in a restaurant in Kansas City where I used to live. About 2 tables over, a guy kept looking at me. This is well after I came back from Vietnam. This guy stood up and he walked over the table. He pointed at me and he said, "You're Captain Plum." I looked up and I said, "Yes, sir. I'm Captain Plum." "You're that guy. You flew jet fighters in Vietnam. You're a fighter pilot. Part of that Top Gun outfit in Miramar, California. You were shot down off the aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk. You parachuted in enemy hands. You were tortured, and you spent 6 years as a prisoner of war." Guy's telling my life story. I looked up at him and I said, "How did you know all that?" He broke into a smile and he said, "Because I packed your parachute." Tell you this, for this guy that runs around the country making speeches, suddenly I was speechless. Best I could do was stagger to my feet, reach out a very grateful hand of thanks. He came up with just the proper words. The guy grabbed my hand, he pumped my arm, and he said, "I guess it worked." I said, "Yes, sir, indeed it did." And I must tell you, I've said a lot of prayers of thanks for your nimble fingers, but I had no idea I'd ever have the opportunity of expressing my gratitude in person. He said, "Were all the panels there?" I said, "I appreciate your interest, and I got to be honest with you, they weren't. Of the 18 panels I was supposed to have in that parachute, I had only 15 good ones. 3 of the panels were torn, but it wasn't your fault, it was mine. I ejected from that F-4 Phantom jet at 600 miles an hour close to the ground. I was well outside the envelope of that parachute. You did your job, I didn't do mine." But let me ask you a question. Do you keep track of all the parachutes you pack? Do you know of all the lives you've saved? The guy said no. Now this is the most important part of the conversation that night. Maybe the most important thing I say to you this morning. I think it deals directly with the direction of the chamber in Licking County. I think it deals directly with you and how you do business. I think it deals directly, collectively, with the group that we've gathered here. Here's what he said. He said, no, I don't keep track of all the parachutes I pack. It's enough gratification for me just to know that I've served. Just to know that I've helped somebody out along life's rocky road. Isn't that the business of the chamber? Isn't that the business of a community that gets together like we do, gets up early in the morning and comes to a groundhog breakfast? Isn't that the whole idea of service above self? So, parachute packers, let me ask you this. How's it going, your parachute packing? Who looks to you for strength in time of need? Maybe more importantly, how's your parachute packed? Who do you look to when the going is tough? And have you thanked them lately? So my parachute was pretty well packed. 15 of 18, my physical parachute, enough for a safe descent. My mental parachute had the skills of my craft, naval officer, fighter pilot, engineer. My emotional parachute, pretty stable guy. My spiritual parachute, I knew the Lord. Got my parachute packed, same place you did, early in life. I grew up in a tiny town in Kansas, Lecompton, Kansas. Town of some 325 souls and a couple of Presbyterians. I was a rich kid, filthy rich I was. Didn't have any material wealth. Didn't have an indoor toilet till I was 7 years old. But we were rich in family unity and love and had a great childhood. And I grew up in a 3-room house, 3 rooms. Not 3 bedrooms, 3 rooms total. In fact, I shared the only bedroom with my big sister and my 2 little brothers. In fact, I never slept alone until I got married. Some of you aren't laughing at that. I was a 4-H'er and a Boy Scout and through the newspaper and great childhood. Got my parachute packed. Don't miss the metaphor, okay? Parachute packing is giving of yourself without asking anything in return. See, it's not a trade. It's not, I'm going to do this for you if you'll do that for me. That's not parachute packing. It has to be a gift. It has to be unconditional. We had a lot of parachute packers in that little town. A coach, I'll never forget, named Smith. If Clarence Smith were still alive, I would have called him this morning to thank him for packing my parachute. Ragtag basketball, lost and lost and lost. The last game of the season, we lost again. One dejected 13-year-old kid wandering off to the locker room. Here comes the coach. He was a veteran. He had shrapnel in his leg from his war, and he walked with a limp. But he caught up with me, and I felt his arm over my sweaty shoulder. And I looked at the coach, tough disciplinarian. All I could think of to say was, I'm sorry, coach, I guess this team's just a bunch of losers. The coach squeezed my shoulder. He sunk his fingernails into the flesh. He said, son, whether you think you're a loser or whether you think you're a winner, you're right. I didn't know what that meant. Asked him the next day at school, Coach, what did that mean? He said, just this. He said, life is a choice. Every day of your life is going to be a beautiful choice. You can choose happiness or sadness. You can choose profit or loss. You can choose health or sickness. You can choose life or death. He said, there's one more choice. When the going is tough and the margins are thin and the competition is high and you're all out of ideas and everybody's on your case, you can always choose to give away all those other choices. You can absolutely elect to step back and become the victim, or you can step forward and become the victor. It's your choice. And at the Naval Academy, I had great leaders there, learned a lot, got my parachute packed. Again, chaplains, officers, other midshipmen, and the superintendent would stand up in front of the big pep rallies before the football games. Never forget this guy. Clench his fists, veins running his brow, and he would say, you guys can do anything you set your minds to do. You guys can do anything you set. Was his hype? Was he messing with our minds? Mental manipulation? Did it work? Those 4 years, the Naval Academy produced 2 Heisman Trophy winners in 4 years. We were the number one college team in the nation for a little while. Best of all, Navy beat Army 4 times straight. This guy was right. Interesting stories here, Cotton. What's it got to do with me? What's that got to do with a business person in Lincoln County anyway? Just this. I was empowered by both those guys. I was empowered by the coach and the superintendent. I was empowered to win. More importantly, I was empowered to fail. Did you get that part? Life is a choice. Said the coach, you can do anything you say. Yeah, those are positive. You can take those either. They empowered me to win. They empowered me to fail. Most importantly, they empowered me to make my choice between the two, and so it is in Licking County. So it is in your company. Look what you've got, okay? First of all, look at the opportunities in this community. Man, the people that need your service and products, okay? Now look at the network of this outfit, okay? Look at the chamber and all that the chamber does. If you're born in the U.S. of A, you won the lottery already. You're empowered in every way to win. More importantly, gang, you are empowered to fail. Didn't want to hear that. Nobody does. Because what do we want? What do you and I want out of life? Well, Charlie, how about giving me a level playing field? You know, make it fair, all right? We've watched Make It Fair. Doesn't work. When somebody offers you a level playing field, turn and run. There are no level playing fields in business. You know that as well as I do. So you're empowered. You're empowered to win. You're empowered to fail. Most importantly, you are empowered to make the choice between the two. And with that, I graduated from Annapolis. Didn't graduate top of my class at Annapolis. In fact, my claim to fame was I graduated in the half of the class that made the top half possible. Threw that hat in the air, pinned on those officer bars, married my high school sweetheart, lovely blonde girl from Kansas, under the arch of swords, a military wedding, picture perfect, flight training, Pensacola, Florida, Beeville, Texas, Meridian, Mississippi, where John McCain was one of my flight instructors. Out to San Diego, where I flew the first adversarial flights for the Top Gun school. Have you seen Top Gun? Yeah. Yeah, good. It's a good movie. Both of them. See, I'd seen the first one, and then it was a while before I got to see the Top Gun Maverick. And my fighter pilot buddies called me up and said, hey, I saw that movie. You're going to cry. My son called me up and said, Dad, I saw the movie. You're going to have an orgasm. My wife said, probably at the same time. That's a good movie. So I launched on the aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk, floating city bigger than this building. 5,000 men on that board, on that ship, and me. And I took off one day with my co-pilot in my back seat, and 5 days before the end of my tour in Vietnam, and we were hit. Surface-to-air missile brought us down, parachuted into enemy hands, and a rice paddy, stripped of everything I had, tortured for 2 days, and tossed into this little cell. The one I described to you from the very beginning wasn't kidding you an inch. So let me tell you about my physical state those first few months in that prison camp. I was bleeding from 4 open wounds, no medical care, just 4 holes in my body where blood's coming out. Down to 120 pounds or so, surviving on 2 bowls of rice a day and a little bit of broth, and about a liter of water, which wasn't enough. Developing these boils, we never understood, but every American shot down, especially in the summertime, got boiled, big carbuncle boils all over our bodies. So there I am, rotting away in a communist prison camp. That's my physical state, and that was the good news. The bad news was my mental state. I'd given up. Fighter pilots are not trained to give up. That is not in the Top Gun playbook. I had surrendered, and I felt very guilty about that. How can I ever go back to my squadron? How can I ever go back to my family and admit that I had failed so miserably in my mission? Maybe I won't go home. Maybe if this war ever ends, I'll go to some foreign country where they've never heard of Charlie Plum, and if they have, I'll change my name, because I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to forget this pain. So it was with that mindset of guilt and frustration and humiliation and a far corner, the chirping noise of a cricket. Been a farm kid, knew what a cricket sounded like. Yet the longer I listened, the more rhythmic that chirp became, and I thought I'd better check it out. Walked over to the corner of my prison cell and found there no cricket, but a little piece of wire. It was about that long, poked through a hole to the base of the cell wall and scratching on my concrete floor, making this chirping noise like a cricket. Are you with me? Can you imagine what might be going through your mind, and especially with these feelings of guilt? I'm watching the little wire. I'm thinking, the enemy is not sophisticated enough to try to trick me. It's got to be an American on the other end of that wire, trying to communicate with me. If it's an American, it also has to be a fighter pilot. That's who's in these prisons. It's an air war over North Vietnam. Fighter pilots are being shot down, and we've got a whole prison camp full of us. Boy, would I like to talk to another fighter pilot. Man, we can tell some stories. But I bet that guy's tougher than I am. I'll bet he's older. He's probably more mature. He's probably a better pilot. And he probably didn't cry for mercy when they tortured him like I did. I'm losing interest now. It'd be nice, right? It'd be nice to talk to that customer that wasn't too happy with our service. Be nice to talk to the spouse about that unspeakable topic. But hey, life's pretty short. Got other things to do. And anyway, if I can crawl over here in the corner of this prison cell and wait, surely in a few years the Marines will break down the gate. I'll be set free. I'll never have to take another risk the rest of my life. And the wire kept scratching. And I kept sweating. And I finally reached down and tugged on the wire. And it tugged back. I tugged again, and it disappeared right back through that rat hole. The wire came back about an hour later. This time the wire had a note wrapped around the end of it. The note was written on a dirty piece of toilet paper, just blobbed on this watered up piece of toilet paper. I could barely make it out. But it said, memorize this code, then eat this note. I did it. I memorized the code. I ate the note. The code is a 5x5 matrix of the alphabet where any letter, two numbers, number of the row. So I memorized the code and I started tugging on that wire. On the other end of the wire, Lieutenant Commander Bob Shoemaker, fighter pilot extraordinaire, astronaut candidate, better than that. Here's a parachute packer. Funny how those folks sort of slide out of the shadows of your life when you need them the most. He'd been there for 2 years. Bob was there for a total of 8 years in that prison camp. He'd been piecing together little bits of wire, stuffing them out a hole in his cell wall across a storeroom between our two prison cells. He fished the wire over the boxes, around the shovels, through the ropes, and into the little hole into my cell wall 14 feet away. Unbelievable. Just to contact me. Just to pack my parachute. He said, "How you doing, buddy?" I said, "I'm doing terrible, buddy." He said, "My president sent me over here. It's his dirty Vietnam War. We all know how political this thing is, and it's not fair what's going on in my life, but it's not my fault. I'm the victim of circumstances beyond my control. The enemy is torturing prisoners. They signed the Geneva Convention. They're not abiding by it. It's not fair what's going on in my life, but it's not my fault. I'm the victim of circumstances beyond my control." Ever feel that way? And it wasn't my private airplane I flew in, or you know, that was a U.S. government airplane. Said so right on the tail. Congress about it, I didn't. It's not fair what's going on in my life. Man, 2 years of COVID, and what happens now, man? We got the supply chain is on our case, and we got the inflation going on, and they closed the bridge. How can they close that bridge? It's not fair. Shoemaker said, "You want to know your biggest problem?" I said, "You mean I got problems bigger than the ones I can see?" He said, "Sure sounds like it. Sounds like you're suffering from a fairly common prison disease. Most guys get it. Some guys die from it. Oh, man. What's the name of this disease? He said, well, around here we just call it prison thinking. I said, prison thinking? He said, Roger, you think. You're a prisoner. I dropped the wire. I stepped away from the corner of that prison cell. Another self-analysis. Still bleeding from 4 open wounds, still no medical care, okay? Those boils I was telling you about, I have so many boils on my face I can barely see through the boils. I have so many boils, I can't count them all. Figure I'm down 115 pounds now, my sole possession in life. The entire Plum estate is a rag I have knotted around my waist to hide my nudity. Clearly, I'm rotting away in a communist prison camp, and now, to add insult to injury, they put me next to a positive thinker. I kept tugging. Tell me about this prison. He said, don't you see, when a fighter pilot is first blown out of the sky, or when a business person comes into a challenge, you know, within your day or week, what's the first emotion? Oh God, why me? Here it comes again. This is so terrible. What could be worse than this? This event is so terrible. The best it will ever be is the time I can forget it. But that's not possible. I can't forget it. It's gonna. So I got a bad case in this prison. I said, what's the antidote to my disease? He said, well, first of all, you got to be a believer. Hang in there. I'm not going to try to preach to you. I'll just tell you this. If you can't tap into a source of strength and power greater than yourself, if you cannot find a purpose in your life, even in this situation, you're probably going to go home in a box. Okay, I think I've got a purpose. I'm a believer, and I think this is all going to work out. He said, you will find that you've just joined the best team you'll ever play on. A bunch of ragtag prisoners of war in this prison camp is the finest you'll ever see. We have leadership in this prison camp, American officers that are going to take care of us, the best you'll ever see. Our leader, Commander Jim Stockdale, is telling us that we're going to go home with honor. That's our motto. I said, okay, I guess I've got those things. He said, well, pull up your big boy pants. We got a war to fight. Whew. It worked. Here's a statistic that you might be interested in. A study was done of all of the Vietnam combatants. 30.6% have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, you know what it is. Of the prisoners of war, 4% have PTSD. And it's primarily the guys shot down at the end of the war. We're not tortured. We're only prisoners for a few weeks or a month or two. Figure that out. So it worked. The psychiatrists and psychologists smarter than I believe it's because of the team that we put together and the leadership that we had and the direction, the purpose that we had over there. So we had great leadership, but some of the best leaders were the youngest and the lowest ranking guys of all. In fact, probably the best parachute packer in the place was a Navy sailor, an enlisted guy. We were all officers. We were college graduates. Who shows up? A Navy sailor. How did a sailor get into a prison camp in an air war over North Vietnam? Well, he fell off his ship. He used to tell us, I wasn't captured like you pilots. I was rescued. Depends on how you look at it. Could he take a joke? We'd have these contests. We would tug on our wires and tap on our walls in a secret code, pass around a little questionnaire. Who's the oldest in the prison camp? Who's got the most kids back home? Who's been here the longest? One time we had what we called the high-fast, low-slow contest to try to determine what fighter pilot had jumped out of his jet going highest and fastest, who jumped out going lowest and slowest. Well, high-fast contest was run by some Air Force jock who punched out of his F-105 at 52,000 feet, 1,000 miles an hour, and the low-slow contest was won by the Navy sailor. 12 feet at 15 knots. Oh, here's the interesting part, and why I take your valuable time to tell you his story. This insignificant, low-ranking, young, minimum wage, new hire, part-timer. You know what I'm talking about. Folks that we have to rub elbows with, but usually they're more trouble than they're worth. Didn't seem to suffer from prison thinking. He didn't have this 8-inch box surrounding his head. What did the sailor do? He set to work. He got into action. He made something happen. He decided, as bad as this looks, there's some value here, and I'm going to find out what it is. He started memorizing names. 254 of us in that particular camp. They put our names into songs. He would sing these songs over and over and over to himself 254 times. Went back through the list, memorized our social security number or identifier, 254 long numbers. He's memorizing this stuff. It's unbelievable. Still wasn't finished. Went back through his list. He memorized our next of kin, wives, fathers, memorized our hometowns all across the country, memorized the telephone numbers of each of the relatives of each of the prisoners. That took 2 years. 10, 12 hours a day for 2 years. He worked on his lists. Well, about that time, the enemy is going to come up with a little promotional play. They're going to send some guys home early before the end of the war. Our senior man sent a message to the sailor. Son, I want you to volunteer to go home first. The sailor sent back, sir, with all due respect, I'd rather stay here with the team. I want to march home with you guys. Our senior man said, that's not an option. Here's a direct order. Shove off. Sailor said, aye, sir. Home he came. Now write the script on this sailor. What would you expect of this guy? He's 21 now. He's got 2 years back pay in his pocket, a brand new suit of clothes on. I haven't seen a woman in 2 years. He's free on the streets of San Diego. What would you expect? Oh, did I tell you he was a parachute packer? What do you suppose he did? Sure, he started to travel, went west coast to east. He went north to south. He went through each one of the hometowns he memorized. He dialed each one of those telephone numbers he'd memorized. He spoke to each one of the wives he'd memorized and told her that her prisoner was alive. We have these reunions. Got one coming up in April. It's the 50th year reunion of our repatriation. It's going to be a great year. You're going to see a lot of news about all this. And the generals march in, the admirals march in, and the senators and the congressmen, and the guy that gets the standing ovation is the Navy sailor. He showed us all a little bit about leadership. Boy, I thought about my wife a lot. Remember her? The lady I had married under the Arch of Swords. I would fast forward my mind about an hour a day just to be with her. Plan the rest of our lives together. And the war finally ended. We signed a peace treaty and we traded prisoners. 10,000 of the bad guys, 591 of us. Got on a big old jet, flew into Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines. Ran down the ladder of that airplane across the tarmac to the first telephone I could find to call her. But she was gone. I called my parents back in Kansas. What has happened to my wife? I'll never forget my mom's words, bless her soul. Mom said, son, I'd give 10 years of my life if I didn't have to tell you this, but your wife hung on for 5 years. Then just 3 months ago, she filed for divorce. She's engaged to another guy. Wow, what a gut punch. I spent the next 2 weeks at Great Lakes Naval Hospital in Chicago. And I was curled up in the fetal position in a hospital bed, thinking to myself, what could be worse than this, man? All this time, and I come back and my wife is divorcing me, and wait a minute. Did you learn nothing in that little 8-foot by 8-foot classroom? Did you learn nothing from the coach and the superintendent that told you that you still have a choice? Pull up your big boy pants. Let's get on with life. And so I did. And the other guys did too. 591 of us came home, 591, not a big number. They told us we'd be in baskets. They had our families prepared to institutionalize us for the rest of our lives. So far, from 591 men, we have produced 2 ambassadors, 2 United States senators, a bunch of congressmen, doctors, lawyers, preachers, teachers, bishops, judges, mayors. Excuse me. We have a vice presidential candidate, a presidential candidate from our number. Unbelievable. No group this size in history has ever done these things after being prisoners of war. Pretty unbelievable. Shoemaker, the guy near the wire, 2-star admiral today. In fact, I'll see him next week. And I thank him again for passing that wire through the hole. The guy in my back seat, my co-pilot, came back to the States, went back to flying Navy jets off aircraft carriers. Some guys never learn. Not fair, I continue to fly for the Navy, and I have 2 little airplanes of my own. I terrorize the skies. Let's see, who else did I tell you about? Oh, the kid that memorized the names. The sailor fell off the ship. He's a teacher. He's still packing those parachutes. My ex-wife married the guy she was engaged to, and they're living happily ever after. And I married a wonderful lady. We have 4 kids and 4 grandkids and have a very happy life. I ran a marathon a few years ago in Alaska. It's called a Midnight Sun Run. It's the Saturday closest to the longest day of the year. I chose that marathon because I figure I might need 24 hours of daylight to run 26 miles. You know, I trained and trained for this thing. Took 3 of my kids up there with me. Joe and Evie and Alex went with me to Alaska. Night before the race, okay? I'm talking to my kids in the hotel. Kids, this is your dad's craziness, and I don't want it to impose on your vacation. So tomorrow morning, it's an early go. I don't even know where this race is. Don't worry. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon after I run the race. It was a hot day in Anchorage. I'm halfway around the course. About mile 13, I hit the wall. I'm sweating like crazy. I'm just barely putting one foot in front of the other and thinking to myself, the most beautiful sign in the world is going to be the finish sign. But it wasn't. It was under the finish sign. Here's my kids cheering on the old man. When I finally caught my breath, I went to my kids and I said, you know, you just don't know how much it means to your father to have you here. But how did you find the finish line? Oh, well, Dad, we shared a cab with a couple of guys in the hotel. They knew where it was. I said, how did they know where it was? Well, Dad, they ran the race. They came back to the hotel. They had breakfast. What's the message? I've taken your valuable time this morning. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing. Listening to an old war horse here telling you war stories. So what's the message? You'll never be prisoners of war. I hope and pray none of you ever get in one of those 8-foot boxes, but we all get into those 8-inchers. We do. And we sometimes get so myopic that we can't see the forest for the trees. You know that. And our people do too. So what happens when you come across a big-time challenge in your life if you can really believe that there's value here? I am convinced that adversity is a horrible thing to waste. If you can believe there's some value in the challenge of life and then challenge yourself to figure out what it is, make it a puzzle. If there's value here, what good will come from this? And then go tug on some wires, okay? It's risky stuff sometimes. Opening up to other people and apply the courage and the faith and the commitment to things that we all know how to do. I'm convinced you can do anything you set your mind to do. Great being with you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. You're very kind.
Text up the award.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain Plum, for your service and for your amazing words today. I know his words have challenged me to really think about the way I think, and I hope he challenged you as well. Uh-oh. Okay, moving on. I feel like this groundhog just likes to interrupt me. I'm not sure what that's about, but maybe we'll find out soon. Each year, the Groundhog community has a privilege of recognizing an individual who has made a positive impact on our community. The John Alford Community Service Award is given in honor and memory of a great leader who proudly and humbly served our community. The list of award winners demonstrates what a truly special community we have in Licking County. A few past recipients include Jack O'Neill, Sarah Wallace, Jerry McLean, Patrick Guanciale, Steve Lehman, Jennifer Utrivas, Dan DeLauder, and most recently, Rick Platt. This year, we honor someone who is not only an amazing leader for our community, but one who demonstrates an unprecedented passion for family, growth, and community, and has a way with combining all of those together. His bio tells a tale of just that. In fact, this is his bio here. It's about 16 pages. No, I'm kidding. He has served on the boards of many local organizations, including Hospice of Central Ohio, Licking Memorial Hospital, United Way of Licking County, St. Francis de Sales Elementary School, Newark Catholic High School, Youth Advocate Services, and the Licking County Alcoholism Prevention Program. In addition, he was a member of the Board of Directors for the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, where he was Vice Chair of the Actuarial Committee, Chair of the Medical Services and Safety Committee, and a member of the Audit Committee. He has served on the Ohio Small Business Advisory Council, a group that advises the governor on small business issues. He was an elected director of Unison Bank and is the past chairman of Licking County Area Action Council of NFIB. His involvement within the beer industry, maybe that's a clue, has included serving in total 7 years on the board for the National Beer Wholesalers Association as a state representative, in addition to serving in each officer position, including chairman of the board, serving on the board of directors with the Wholesale Beer and Wine Association of Ohio, including serving in each officer position, including president. He graduated from The Ohio State University in 1977 with a bachelor's degree in business administration. Upon graduating, he began working at Metesic Distributing Company, a family-owned wholesale beverage distribution business, which was founded in 1928 by his Uncle John and grandfather, John Metesic Sr. He has worked primarily in operations and accounting areas of the business throughout most of his 45-plus years with Metesic Distributing. In 1987, he attained his master's degree in business administration from Ohio University. His most recent accolade, ironically enough, was the 2021 recipient of the Licking Memorial Hospital's Lifetime Achievement Award. He now spends his time as CEO of Metesic Distributing and serving as a board of trustee for Ohio Dominican University. When not enjoying time in Florida, he and his wife, Amy, live in New Albany, Ohio, and have 3 adult children and 8 grandchildren. He has a passion for golf, great food, and of course loves to combine those two and share them with others. Their family motto of do the right thing always has been the center of how he has operated personally and professionally. And his daughter Sarah said of him, he is as tough as nails, passionate about the things he holds dear, and someone I would run through a wall for. He's been the best partner, mentor, and father that one could ever ask for. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you this year's John Alford Community Service Award winner, Jim Metesic. Thank you. Podium is yours.
This is amazing. You know, the funny thing is, a friend of mine texted me yesterday. And how he knew, I don't know. But he said, congratulations on winning this award. He didn't name the award. He just said, congratulations, I understand you're winning an award, and it's great. So proud of you. And I texted him back, I said, what the heck are you talking about? Well, apparently, his wife, or he said something to his wife, and he got back to me, he said, I just meant for, helping organizing me getting some spaghetti and meatballs from Adernetto's in Zanesville, and you win the award for, whatever it was he was talking about. And I looked at my wife and I said, he just must be off a step or two today because I think he's thinking of somebody else. And then last night, Sarah, my daughter, calls me up and says, hey, we're sitting at the front row. We've got a table. I know you're kind of dressing casual these days, but you might want to put on a suit and tie. And I said, well, actually, I don't wear suit and ties very often anymore, so I had one picked out, so that's what I'm going to wear tomorrow. And she said, oh, great. So, when the hospital recognized me, and then this year, or today with this award, this is very humbling. To be part of a group of gentlemen and ladies that I've looked up to over the years. I grew up in Zanesville, and I moved to Newark because my brother and I were in Zanesville helping my dad, and my Uncle Matt was up here, and my dad said, you've got no family, that your brother's got a wife and 2 children, you're young, you need to get up to Newark and help your uncle. I said, okay. So I came to Newark. I didn't know much about Newark, but I've learned an awful lot about Newark. And Newark is a great community. Licking County is a great community. And as we got news about what was happening to our western part of our county, I looked at Sarah and I said, this is going to be an opportunity that your uncle and I never had to see. We never had the opportunity to see growth like we potentially have coming to this county in the next 10, 20, who knows how many years. We saw companies that closed and shuttered. We saw empty factories. We saw coal mines that were shut down. But we still survived as a business. And it took a team, like you mentioned this morning, sir. It took a team. And started with one man in a truck in 1928. Not 2 men, but one man in a truck, my Uncle John. And it's now grown into a company of over 100 employees. And I've got 45 years in now. And soon, that time will come to an end. But I love my business that I've been able to share with my family and my other team members. I love this community. And I can't do anything but humbly thank you for this and wish you all the best as we face one of the most challenging opportunities we've ever seen in this I've ever seen in this county, and I think many of you are the same as I am. So God bless you. Thank you very much, and happy Groundhog Day.
Well deserved. Congratulations to Jim on this well-deserved recognition. Thank you once again for all you've done for the community and for really just everything you do. Jennifer promised me a drink, by the way, after serving as MC, so later I will say, this bud's for you, Jim. Uh-oh, groundhog again. Let's clap.
I say I'm too late. Got nothing in my brain. That's what people say. That's what people say.
Oh, yeah.
I go on too many dates, but I can't make them stay. At least that's what people say. That's what people say. But I keep cruising. Can't stop, won't stop moving. It's like I got this music in my mind saying it's gonna be alright. 'Cause the player's gonna play, 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 play. And the haters gonna hate, 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 baby. I'm just gonna shake, 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 shake. Shake it off, shake it off. Heartbreaker's gonna break, 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 break. And the
All right, I'm not going to even try to dance to match that. So, now it's time for the great reveal. Every year we try to figure out who is the groundhog. So we have a few clues this year. Clues are, works best after midnights. When it comes to their job, the law is on their side. is banking on being around Licking County for a long time. Do you have any idea who it is? Who likes to dance? And who is our celebrity groundhog for this year? Let's figure it out. Oh my goodness, Sally Heckman, President of First Federal Savings.
Put my hat on. It's me! Hi! This has been so much fun this morning. I've made a couple of observations from behind the screen, the mask. There are really two camps of you people. One is the people who are super into mascots. Like, we want to do selfies, let's do the hug thing, like, I want in, we're posing, and everything like that. And then the second camp is the camp my parents fall squarely into, which is avoid eye contact at all times and walk as fast as you can past. That's where we land. But thank you guys so much. This has been so fun.
Thank you. Round of applause. Sally, you've been such a good sport. Thank you. Well, look at the time. I know we started late, but we're going to end on time today. And fortunately, you can still all get in 8 hours of work today. Or, on second thought, you have my permission to leave at noon if you'd like. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Licking Memorial Health Systems, and Captain Plum for sharing his emotional and inspiring message. Thank you. Also, congratulations to Jim Matesic, this year's John Alford Community Service Award recipient. Our corporate sponsor for the 2024 Groundhog Breakfast will be Edward Jones. If you have any interest in being a future sponsor of the Groundhog Breakfast, and please note 2029 is the next available opening, please contact Jennifer McDonald. And thanks again to all who helped make this event happen, especially to each and every one of you, for getting up so early to celebrate with us. Don't forget to pick up your Pride magazine on the way out. And ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Until next year, have a great day. Oh my goodness.
You're done.
That was terrible.
I know. Inside my bones, it goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up no ceiling when we in our zone. I got